What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the overall market moving forward, what's going on with big earnings that just came out of the news for Tesla, and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I begin the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moon, deposit $100, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon in just about 3 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening to the market. In my video from yesterday, I mentioned that Tesla's on a downtrend right now, as we've been making lower highs and lower lows, and Tesla's currently at this 172 area. Now, we're seeing a lot of buyers trying to defend this 170 zone, so we will see if they try to defend Tesla right here and try to give us one little rebound, at least temporarily, before we continue lower later on, or if Tesla does anything very different. But this will be very dependent on news and data coming out. So I first want to talk about that before I break down the levels for Tesla. I give you guys the bullish and bearish cases for the overall market, and then talk about what I think could end up playing out. First, let's talk about this. So tomorrow is going to be Friday, May 10th, 2024. At 9 o'clock a.m., we have Bowman from the Fed giving a speech. At 10 o'clock a.m., we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report, the 5-year inflationary expectations, and more inflationary data that's coming out, at least for that. And then we have some Fed speakers for the rest of the day, such as Barr and another one. So that's pretty much it, at least for the time being. I just want to make it very, very clear that for the first 30 minutes of the day tomorrow, that's when we should be looking for some volatility because we have some Michigan data and a couple of Fed speakers. So we will see what that causes. Look for volatility for the first 30 minutes of open, at least going into tomorrow. And then when it comes to the way the market's moving, we have some earnings that just came out. We just got Unity announcing its earnings. And for Friday, we have Digital Open and very, very minor earnings. Everything else is very minor, nothing too significant. But we'll see what Unity is doing right now. Right now, Unity is actually dipping quite a bit because we didn't have the best of guidances. Revenue is at $460.4 million. That is once again above expectations, a 6.2% beat. Their EPS was a miss. However, at 75 cents, they lost 75 cents per share. That's actually an 11.5% miss. We were expecting a loss of 67 cents per share. Revenue is at about $423 million at the midpoints. That is once again below expectations by 4.6%. And the full year guidance is below expectations. Everything else is not so great. So guidance is down, free cash flow is down, and they had weak projections moving forward. Their EPS was also a miss, but the revenue was a beat. So that's why the share price is down despite gross margins improving. That's why the share price is tanking right now for the stock. A couple more things before I break down news about Tesla and then talk about the charts. The fear and greed index is currently more fearful. We're actually seeing fear making up the majority of sentiment right now. And we're getting very close to neutral, but I just want to make it very clear that there are not as many buyers. There are more buyers than before that are stepping in, and they're helping to defend this and kind of shift it more this way. So we'll see if that ends up continuing. Right now, the market is still greedy in terms of momentum. We also have the puts and call options positioning being quite neutral at the zero point 0.8 ratio. So we'll see if this shifts or not. And market volatility is also kind of neutral. Right now, do not forget that we have our very, very, excuse me, our very, very key indicator for the VIX is at the 12s right now. Usually the VIX does not hold the 12s for over a week. So the VIX is going to likely bounce soon. We're at some critical support, so we'll see if that ends up being the case. And we'll give this some time just to be safe. Now, for SPY, as a reminder, tomorrow is May 10th. We have over 300,000 calls expiring, and we have over 527,000 puts expiring for a 1.71 puts to call ratio at 513 being max pain. So that's actually very, very important. I want to make that very, very clear. The majority of positions are actually in puts, and we'll see if the market makers try to squeeze shorts or not. So as far as things go, Tesla has once again seen a little bit of a change right over here. I want to make it very clear that there's a lot of negative news coming out for Tesla. Tesla is basically in a position where they were announcing that the federal prosecutors are continuing to look into their FSD. We're still seeing the NHTSA kind of asking for more information from Tesla, and the layoff news is also continuing, which is part of why the share price is down. Tesla's lost another manager to layoffs. This one quits due to morale and other factors like that, according to what he said. So that's something worth noting. There's been a lot of talk about that, how the layoffs are just continuing. And their entire team has been cut, especially a lot of job listings. So that's also making a lot of headlines. With all of this happening, we saw Rich Auto end up resigning. He was working for Tesla for 7 years, very, very intelligent, very, very assiduous. And to see this happen, he was the head of production launches at Tesla, and him leaving is not very good for the company. So I just want to say, Rich Otto, I really appreciate the work that you have done. Great work for everything. But the future still holds different doors. So hopefully things improve at least for you moving forward. But for now, that's not the best news for Tesla. It was a great asset, and with Tesla losing lots of executives, lots of great employees, that's continuing to make a lot of headlines too. Volume is slowing at 66 million. That's a little bit below average. Short volume is also kind of going up a little bit as we're seeing more shorting at about 64%. And then we also have Cantor Fitzgerald giving us an overweight rating. We have a tendency of seeing more volatility as the price price ratio is dipping a little bit as Tesla's losing some strength. And then don't forget that for seasonality, we tend to see more green about 48% of the time on Fridays. So Fridays tend to be weaker days for Tesla. We see more volatility at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and also during the final hours of the day. And that's pretty much it for now. It's slowing volume. Tesla's not looking that great. So for Tesla, I'd say the share price is looking quite bearish right now because we're continuing to fall, making lower highs and lower lows. And when we look at the daily time frame, at least for these different tickers, things are not looking that great. Tesla's looking kind of weak on the daily, right over here. We're just barely holding support, and we've been downtrending quite a bit ever since we hit that 200 area. So to me, Tesla's looking kind of weaker. It's not looking that great, and the 4 hour is also showing some weakness. So I wanted to break down more details about this. We have 175 as our resistance area. That's very, very critical. We have support currently at 172. If we lose that, look for 170 and also lower levels like this. Now, it is possible Tesla tries to rebound a little bit with the market, tries to get back to 175 tomorrow, retest this trend, and then eventually starts sinking lower back down to 170. A little pop and drop like move is a really good possibility. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla actually pushes up a little bit tomorrow morning before we get another rejection. But the overall trend is still looking a bit more bearish. So make sure you watch your levels. To be bullish, you want to see it hold above 175. To be bearish, you want to see it lose 172 and start losing 170. I favor that Tesla will kind of rebound a little bit, just a little bit more, retest our 50 EMA, get kind of short of this, and eventually make our way down lower as we're still on a downtrend. And the momentum is still bearish for Tesla, at least for the time being. For SPY, it's the opposite. And that's why Tesla's looking kind of weak right now because SPY is showing some strength. We're pushing up very, very nicely. We have 520 as resistance. We break this, look for 521.5 and eventually 523 as resistance. If we lose support at 520 on SPY, look for 518. And if that fails us, we have 516.8 and eventually 515. In my opinion, the chart looks bullish from a technical standpoint. SPY favors that it wants to get up to this imbalance up here. We have this resistance at 521.5. I think we're going to be testing. If that breaks, 523 is next. But I just want to note that I don't personally believe that this is going to last forever because first thing, it's actually SPY itself. Let me just show you something about SPY before I break down the VIX for a second. So the last time SPY hit 521.5, look what happened. We hit 521.5 all the way up here. The 520 area was up here. We got a big rejection and came all the way down to about 511. We also hit 523 and came all the way down to about 512. So we got to 10-point drops once we hit 521 and 523 the last time we hit them. So I think that SPY could push higher. It's going to fight some tough resistance, but then we are going to get a rejection. That's the first factor, our resistance. Seasonality is another factor. Then we have a couple more like the VIX. The VIX is on a downtrend right now, showing the market is still pushing. But look at how the VIX loves to bounce off the 12 area. Every time we hit the 12.5 area since the end of last year, this thing bounced. Right, it hit this, it bounced within a few days, bounced within a few days, again and again, and again. And then finally, the last time this happened was around March. March 21st, the VIX hit 12.5, excuse me. And we remained like this for a couple of days. And it wasn't until a week later we actually started to break out on the VIX as the market got a big rejection. So this shows us that within a week, usually the VIX does love to actually bounce off 12.5 around the 12 range. And there is a risk of that happening again, at least for the broader markets. If that were to happen, this suggests that SPY is going to push higher, going to go higher, then we're going to get a big rejection as time goes on. For the 10-year treasury yield, we're looking a bit more bearish. We'll see if this shifts or not, but it's not really affecting the market as much. This will be affected by what the Fed ends up saying. The dollar has support at 105, so if we bounce off this support, we're testing previous support becoming resistance at 105. That could be a bearish signal for the markets. If we don't bounce on the dollar, if the dollar continues to sink, because I do see it dipping a little bit more to 105, I think the market's going to push higher as a result of that. But watch and see if we bounce off support in the dollar. That's going to be key for us as well. So, anyways, going back to the charts, I want to make it very clear that SPY looks bullish. I am more bullish on the market for now, but there's a big but. I don't think that this is going to last forever. I think there's going to be a big shift nonetheless. So we'll have to wait and see how things go. I think SPY could push a little bit higher, and we'll see if we get a rejection. We did reject off 521.5 in the past and also 523. So I think we go a little bit higher, then we'll see what happens after that. How about for the triple Q? The QQQ, we're also approaching some tough resistance. So on the 4-hour time frame, we have 442 as our resistance and also 444 as this imbalance. I think that the QQQ is on an uptrend and we're approaching 442. If we break that, look for 444. Now, if we end up losing support at 439, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 437. And I think that there's a very good chance that that could end up happening. But I favor that the QQQ is going to go a little higher, retest 442. And if we break that, we could go all the way up to about 444. And then we're going to be looking for a rejection after that. So we'll just have to see how things go. But for now, that's what I'm seeing on the charts. I just want to make that very clear and be very, very honest with everyone. So watch and see what happens with the QQQ. I think we go a little bit higher first before we get a big rejection, and we'll see what happens after that. On top of all of this, we have Nvidia stock. Nvidia to me is looking a bit more bearish because we did reject from the high, and we've been on a little bit of a dip right here. So I could even draw like a little trend line like this just to kind of show you guys what could end up happening. This is like our support right over here. It's kind of like this. So we will see how Nvidia kind of holds up, at least from right about here. But just to be frank with everyone, I think that Nvidia is looking a bit more bearish, as we had this range we were kind of stuck in, and we kind of rejected right over here. So you can see we had the support at 892. We lost support. We dipped all the way down to 885. We could try to bounce tomorrow, retest our 20 EMA at 892. If not 900, I think we might return in this range, then reject and start tipping all the way down to 875. Look for a little rebound and a rejection as the most likely possibility, and we'll have to see how things go. For Apple, Apple has resistance at 185. If we end up hitting this resistance, I want to make it very clear that we could reject here. If we break through this, then we could push a little bit higher. Apple looks to me like it's going to be hitting 185 plus, maybe a little bit higher first before anything else. But I see potential for Apple to actually push a little bit higher. I do see some potential in the chart. I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. With that being said, guys, that is it for the main 5 I typically talk about. Now I'm going to be transitioning to other tickers and just try to be very, very brief with this part. So what on earth is happening to Palantir in my personal opinion? Let me talk about this. Palantir, in my opinion, is actually looking a little bit weaker. We have support currently at this 21 area. If we lose this, look for 20.5. We could rebound a bit, then eventually make our way down lower. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. But the share price right now is looking a bit more bearish. For Super Micro, we're also looking a little bit weaker right here. If we lose 800, we're going to be tipping all the way down towards basically 780, then 754 after that. We have resistance currently at 814. If that breaks, then we could be going all the way up to about 840. So we just have to wait and see how things end up going. But we have this nice little sideways range for the time being, and there is a risk of Super Micro kind of rejecting. So that's going to be very, very important for us. For Rivian, in my personal opinion, is kind of stuck in this range. We have this basically 10.25 areas resistance. We have support at 10 flat. We may continue to trade sideways, and we'll see if this dips or not, but that's going to be key for us. For the IWM, I keep mixing these up. Sorry, guys. For SoFi, I'm going to talk about that before the IWM. SoFi is also really boring. It's just trading sideways around 7 to about 7.14. So we're just going sideways for now, not really doing much. I don't really expect much for tomorrow as well. For the IWM, we look bullish, however, because we have a very, very nice looking cup and handle like structure, and we're trying to push higher. So I do think we're going to be going to at least 207 to 208.5, but we have 2 rejections. We once rejected off 207 and also at 208.5. So we'll see if that ends up being the case again, but that is something I just wanted to note. For AMD is also trading kind of sideways right here. We have resistance currently at this 153 area. We have support currently at 115. We'll see what this ends up doing. We're still kind of stuck within this range, so give this a little bit more time. For ARM has resistance at the 50 EMA at 104. We will see if this rejects or not. If we do reject, you're going to be dipping lower. If we break through this, we could push higher, but we're kind of stuck at least in the middle. For Coinbase, we're trying to push a little bit higher. I do see an attempt to get up to about 215.6. And if that breaks, look for 220. If it rejects off 215, we're going to be coming back down to 210 or lower. Look for a test of the 215s, and we'll see how things go after that. For Amazon, we're on a bit of an uptrend right now, but we have resistance at this 190 area. If we break that, look for 192. If we fail at 190 and reject again, we're going to be dipping all the way down to about 187. So watch and see what Amazon does. Look for a big test of 190 for tomorrow. For Meta, we're looking a bit more bullish right now. We're at 476 as of right now. We have this test coming up. So we have two very important levels. Let me just kind of fix this. I know this looks very, very, it's catching your attention very well, but that's not the main line I want to focus on. That's going to be a one resistance. We also have this resistance right here. So right here, we have this, let me just double check. 478 area is going to be our resistance on Meta. So watch and see if we break 478. If we reject off this, we're going to be dipping all the way down to about 471. If we break that, we're going to be going up to about 480, then 485. We will just have to wait and see. I do see a slight uptrend coming, so we'll just have to be very patient nonetheless. For Microsoft, you have resistance currently at this 414 area. If we break that, we have this imbalance at 415. If it rejects, you're going to be dipping all the way down to 409. So we're kind of stuck in the middle, at least for the time being. A nice double bottom like structure. I do think we could go a little bit higher, and we'll see how things go at least after that. On top of all of this, for Google has support currently at 170. If we lose this, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards 168. If we hold this, we're going to be rebounding. So watch and see how things end up going. I do see a little bit of a risk of this kind of dipping a bit since we're showing some weakness. We're barely holding the 170 area, the 20 EMA, so we'll see how things go. But that is something else worth noting. The VIX is also looking, once again, like I said earlier, a bit more bearish, which shows that the market could bounce a bit more. But the VIX is approaching some critical support. I think it's going to bounce soon. I personally think that within 1 week, it's going to start to bounce. And within 2 weeks, it should be back to 15 plus, in my opinion. So that makes me think that SPY will reject off one of the resistance levels. We're not there yet. It could take, a couple of days, could take another week until SPY truly rejects. But I do believe SPY will eventually reject because of that. But for now, the VIX does look bearish and SPY looks more bullish. So yes, SPY will likely go up higher. The market will likely push higher for now to higher levels just for the time being. The 10-year treasury yield is dipping a bit. We'll see how this is affected by Fed speakers, and that's pretty much it, at least for now. And then, like I said earlier about the dollar, we're watching to see how it's going to react to 105. It's going to likely dip a little bit more, which is going to help the market pump. We'll watch to see if it gets a bounce or not. I'll be very, very patient nonetheless. With that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Tesla is looking very weak compared to the market as of right now because of all this bad news. So the news will also affect Tesla. Can't always predict that, but we'll see how it goes. If we end up losing 172, look for a dip all the way down to 170. It might rebound a little bit first, try to push back up before it continues. So give it some time and see how things go. And I just want to thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, guys. I really appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you guys again tomorrow morning, and peace out.